user settings and just kind of giving you a quick overview of what you can change under your user in the different sections that are available. So we're selecting our receptionist user. We're going to start off with user details. So under this section, you can change the first or last name of that user. You can change the extension number for internal calls or transferring, the email address that's associated to that user, as well as the voicemail PIN, password, or security question for this user. So as a super admin, if I log in and I choose that option, I need to put in my super admin password. And then I have the ability to change the voice manager password, the voicemail PIN, or the security question for this specific user. That's pretty much it under the General tab. If we go under Settings and Permissions, here we can change the time zone by hitting Edit under Regional Settings. If we wanted to set up custom hours for this user, we can hit that Edit. By default, they're usually on 24/7. The moment we do have actual custom hours, we have the ability to choose after hour options. So we'll leave that on so we can play with that later. And as a super admin, I do have the ability to change the role of other users. By default, they usually all are set as standard, but I could choose different roles here, which may give them a little more access when they log into the Voice Manager portal. That's pretty much it under user details. Phones and numbers. In this section, we can change the presence of the buttons that are located to the left and right of the screen. We select presence. If your physical desktop phone does have, let's say, more than 2 buttons to the left of the screen, if you have a Polycom 250, you may have 4. You could program button 3 and 4. The first 2 buttons we cannot touch. Those are pretty much reserved for that user themselves. But the other ones we could program parking lots. We can put other users onto that button. So button number 4, I can click assign extension, assign it to the test 2 user. And now basically on my physical phone, I would be able to actually see whenever that user is available. I'd see a green light, a red light when they're on a phone call. I'd have the shortcut to just press that button and get a hold of them. And that's kind of a brief overview of presence. Under the 3 dots, we have intercom. So by default, this is usually off. We can simply just click on, we would select the phone that we want to accept the intercom calls, and basically the users that have the ability to intercom us. Once that's enabled on your actual desktop phone, usually there's 4 buttons below the screen. One of them would say intercom. When you select that, it would prompt you to enter the extension of the user, and then it'll kick in the speaker of that phone, and you can have a 2-way conversation. So under screen greeting and hold music, a lot of these sections have little info icons, which if you click on will give you kind of an idea of what this setting may do. Usually user greeting and connecting messages, those are kind of intro messages, something that someone would hear before the phone would ring. Call screening would enable the person to have to identify themselves before getting the call through. If we enable connecting message, so as I mentioned, anytime I try and get a hold of this user, it's going to play this message. Please hold while I try to connect you. You can choose edit, go to custom, and here you can choose 3 different methods to customize this. You can have it call yourself on a cell phone or a landline and basically follow the prompts to record your own message. You have a built-in computer microphone or an external microphone, you can record it directly off your computer. Or if you already have an audio clip, then you can pretty much upload it and enable it. Audio while connecting is what we would hear while we're waiting for that individual to answer the phone. Usually we set it to ringtones, but you do have the ability to edit. And if you go to music, there is a bunch of pre-built music into the system that you can pick from. If you do choose custom, then it'll give you the ability to upload an audio file. We just always say that if you're going to be using music, just make sure you have the rights to be able to play that music. Hold music works kind of the same way. Anytime you place someone on hold, this is what they're going to hear. If you choose edit, you have similar options: ringtones, music with the pre-built ones, or custom where you would upload an audio clip. We scroll down to call forwarding and voicemail. Just cancel that. So under this section is kind of how you would want your phone to operate. So right now, by default, our user just has the phone that's assigned to them set to ring for 4 rings. And if we miss a call, it's going to go to voicemail. Scroll a little more down, you'll see that. So we're going to play with each of these little sections just to give you an idea of what you can do. If we go to add number or coworker, we can go to coworker and we can set up so that somebody else's phone will also ring. Add them both in there. So we have these 3 phones set up right now to ring anytime this user is called. Right now, because it's set in order, what would happen is basically this phone would ring initially for 4 rings. If no one answers, then it would go to this phone, 4 rings. If no one answers, then to this phone, 4 rings, no one answers, and then end up to voicemail. If you chose ring all at once, kind of self-explanatory, everything that you have set up here is all going to ring at the same time. If you wanted a scenario where you wanted 2 phones to ring together, you had like 2 phones at the front desk, you can do something where you select them, create a ring group, keep this selected to ring in order. Now you'll basically have these 2 phones ring for 4 rings. If nobody answers, then it will go to this third phone. And at that point, if nobody answers, it will go to voicemail. So now in the voicemail section, and one last thing, you can also go in here and rather than choose that, you could choose number, in which case you could add an external number, a cell phone or another landline, toll free, etc. So if you want it to go to voicemail, then that's usually the default option. You can always select edit and choose custom. And similar to the connecting message, you have the 3 ways to record your own custom voicemail. You can have it call your phone, record it off your computer mic, or import an audio clip for your voicemail. If you didn't want voicemail, there are a handful of other options. Once you select it, you can have it play an audio clip and just disconnect, advising people that are reaching large call volumes. If you try calling us back later, etc. You could also have it forward to an extension, meaning that any other groups or users that are built into the system, IVRs, select that. Basically, anything that is built into the system, you'd be able to throw in there. And then basically, once all of these calls have gone through the list, it'll end up to that call queue, IVR, or other user. And the last option is for it to just be forwarded straight to an external number. So this would end up, if you had a call center that took calls or your cell phone, this would end up with the voicemail of that individual. So if I put my cell phone number in here, after it's gone through all these phones, it'll ring my cell phone, it'll end up with my cell phone number or my cell phone's voicemail. If I entered my cell phone here, it'll only ring my cell phone for X amount of rings, in this case 4 rings, and then it'll come into this section and pretty much do whatever is true here. So in this case, it would end up with my cell phone's voicemail. In this case, it would not end up with my cell phone voicemail. So as mentioned earlier, If you do set up custom hours for your user, you're going to have the ability to set up after hours. Save that. Oh, let me save. Back to voicemail. So under after hours, it's very similar in how you can pretty much choose what you want it to do. Let's click on this drop down. If you choose ring in order or ring all at once, it's basically to give you a similar menu to how it looked when you were under work hours. In which case you could have it ring maybe your phone, or if you wanted it to ring somebody else's phone after hours because you know from 3 to 5 somebody else will be in the office. So go select another phone, turn off your phone, and then basically after hours it's just going to ring this individual's phone. As mentioned, whether you choose ring in order, ring all at once, you'll have a very similar look as it was under working hours. Otherwise, you could choose to just send it to a voicemail, in which case you can have a custom voicemail just for your after hours, advising you're out of the office and your hours of operation. Um, Again, you can have it play a message and disconnect, forward to other extensions, or to an external. So that's kind of a quick overview of everything under the actual extension. Outbound calls and faxes. Caller ID section is where we would actually change the phone number that's being displayed when you call out. So under the by phone section, you can hit edit and you'd be able to choose a different phone number that's in the system to call out on. The only reason we see all these numbers are because they're set up as the auto receptionist number. If these numbers were direct numbers to other users, we wouldn't be able to use them. There are other features in here if you do make calls throughout the system using the app or ring out from the web itself, and you can choose for it to display similar numbers, different numbers. Under fax settings, we're not going to get too into the weeds for this. The biggest thing is when you're sending faxes out, to add email addresses that are basically allowed to be able to send faxes. So this is purely for eFax. Um, the email addresses, if you add here, they'll have the ability to fax out using their email. Any internal faxes that come to this user is going to go to the actual email associated to this user. But for other individuals, all they would have to do is have their email addresses added and then just follow this to send the fax out. Enter the fax number at fax.telus.com and then attach the document that they want and basically email it out and it'll be transmitted as a fax. Under the meeting section, if you do choose to use the Telus Unified app, which comes with the meeting application built into it, you could change your meeting settings through your portal here. And this is where you pretty much pick and choose whether, automatically mute audio when joining the meetings, having your video on, um, email notifications, etc. You can have this all predefined before you create your meetings. Also, you have the ability to allow other people to schedule meetings for you. Choose to edit. You can have other users schedule meetings for yourself. And the last section is notifications. So this is where you could choose to get voicemails sent to you via email or text message. If any faxes that were received or missed calls, etc. This email address is by default whatever the email was used for the user, but you can change it to a different one if somebody else wants to receive notifications or if you have a general email box that you want it all sent to. If you choose to get any notifications by SMS, you do need to put your carrier in there and add your phone number into the system. That's kind of it. Hope that helps with any of your questions.